I was living down in England by this time, and I was expecting Ollie in the summer of 2016. I moved back up to Castletown in the spring of 2016, and I heard on the phone from the midwife, the local midwife here in Caithness, that I would no longer be able to give birth in Wick, which was a shock for me. I didn't know the change on the political scene since I'd been away for 4 years in England. So I had to have Ollie in Regmore and Inverness. I had to go all the way from Castletown to Regmore, and there was no choice about that. It was a planned section, and that was the end of it. It had to be Regmore.
And just before we go through that actual experience, just take me back to your kind of initial response, your initial reaction when you found that out. How did you feel?
Oh, I was astounded. I was really surprised, and I said, well, why? Why Regmore? Why do I have to travel that way? My first 2 babies were successfully born in Wick, and I'm coming back to Caithness. And the midwife said, it's just everything's changed, and the unit's been downgraded, and so you'll have to go to Regmore. So then I had that worry as well. I had to move myself back up with my 2 children to Caithness, and I had the worry at the back of my mind that, oh, great, now I've got to go over 100 miles, about 130 miles from Castletown to Inverness to give birth, and I knew then I would have to have a third section. It was going to be a planned section for medical reasons. So then I knew I had the whole thought of coming back up, that long journey with a fresh incision and with a newborn baby.
And just before you gave birth, what was the care like when that unit was downgraded? Obviously that was a consultant-led unit. What care did you have at your disposal?
For the first 2 births?
After it was downgraded in 2016?
Then it was more midwife-led, and I had appointments with the midwife, and I don't seem to recall seeing a consultant nearly as often. I think a consultant came up possibly to visit Wick, and I don't seem to remember seeing the consultant more than once and for the 3rd pregnancy.
Gosh. And how many times did you see midwives? Did you see the
regular appointments, the regular schedules, I think once every 4 to 6 weeks, whenever they needed to catch up and check everything was okay, do blood pressure checks and blood tests. That was the regular timescale for those.
But did you feel like a sort of complete difference in support versus when you had your earlier births?
Yes.
To that now, Ciara, not to put the midwife care at a sort of disservice, but did you feel like you didn't have as a holistic a care or support?
Yes, I would agree. I mean, there were definitely longer periods of time between getting an appointment to see the consultant, definitely. And you did feel a bit more left on your own. And then it was a question of, well, when I go down to Regmore, how will the section happen, and will I be in a ward afterwards? Will I get my own room like I did in Wick? And there were lots of logistical questions about getting down there and getting back. And of course, you didn't have the same option as when I was in Wick for the first 2 babies. A consultant was there based on the ward. And so if anything changed, which it did during the middle of the night for my first baby, the consultant was phoned up by the midwife, said, look, she's not doing so well. He came in about 4 in the morning and he woke me up and said, that's it, I've decided I'm going to give you an emergency C-section. And then you were taken care of. And that was the job done, and it had to be sectioned in the middle of the night, and there you go. And now, of course, you feel like, well, you wouldn't get that. If you had gone into Wick to be checked and something was wrong, well, they'd ferry you off down the road, and there wouldn't be the option of a consultant coming in to say, right, I'm taking care of you, this is my decision, we're going to act now. Because you can't act now. Regmore is 3 hours away by road easily.
And 9 months isn't a short period of time when you are pregnant.
No, that's right.
I mean, how did that feel, not having that sort of support there and living with that at the time?
It was worrying. Plus I had to move up from England back to Caithness. So I did feel quite alone, and it was a worrying time. And just the thought that I had to go so far away to give birth, I was very anxious about it, actually.
And you had a planned C-section?
Yes.
For this birth?
In 2016, yes.
2016. Explain to me that journey. I know you went through it there, but just can we go through it again if that's okay?
Yes, certainly. Well, I wasn't able to drive down because I knew afterwards I wouldn't be able to drive back up, because you're not permitted to drive for 6 weeks after having a caesarean section. So I knew that, well, if I took the car down, it would be stuck. So I had to get down another way and then get a lift home after the operation. So to get down, I opted to take the X99 coach. It's quicker than the train. The train is at 4 hours. And then, of course, you've got to connect to Regmore anyway. So I took the X99 coach. And I had to go all the way alone with my overnight cases down to Inverness, where I then changed and got a bus out to Regmore and arrived on the ward myself for my pre-op checkups.
So heavily pregnant.
Heavily pregnant, all alone, and a long journey on public transport where anything could have happened.
What was going through your mind at the time?
Well, I was hoping that labour wouldn't start on the way. And I was hoping somebody might help me with my case as I was waddling about through Inverness, but nobody did. I had to find the bus stop myself, waddling around heavily pregnant with my case. And it was just the worry of finding the correct bus to connect to Regmore. I didn't want to be stuck, and I also wanted to make the correct time of my appointment. And then I knew the operation was the next day, so I had a sleepless night at Kyle Court that night.
And it's almost 10 years on from this.
Yes.
It's 2026 now. That was back in 2016,
Yes.
July.
Yes.
2016.
Yes.
How are you now? Do you still think of that time? Is it still a traumatic memory?
Well, I had another birth since then. I went down to Regmore in 2021 for my last baby. My fourth baby was a forced C-section, and that was also a planned C-section in Regmore. So I went through this whole saga again, except this time round my kind brother gave me a lift down and back for the operation.
But were you, after that experience in 2016, did it leave you thinking, okay, I need to anticipate, I need to think this through, I need to know what next steps I need to take because of this downgrading of services? Were you worried?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Next birth?
Yes, I was worried. I was hoping that things would pick up in Wick in the interim, and they didn't. So then I knew that, yes, I would have to have another C-section far away from home and not see anybody either afterwards. I didn't see anyone, and none of my family were able to come down and visit me. So it's a very lonely time.
And how was that birth in 2021, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a little involved, actually. I had some medical issues during the operation, so I needed a second surgeon to come in. So it was drawn out a bit. It was a little bit prolonged and frightening, actually. And my family wasn't able to know any updates until I was wheeled back out onto the ward. So I wouldn't recommend that really for anyone. And I was actually advised by the surgeons afterwards to not ever attempt another pregnancy due to medical reasons. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be having another baby.
And just, that was forgive me if I'm getting my facts mixed up here, Elizabeth, but was that a planned C-section as well?
Yes.
Did you take that, and this might be too personal a question, so please ignore me and no comment if you don't want to.
Hello. Would there be like a tea or coffee or anything?
I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, though.
Okay, thank you.
How are we doing for time, just quickly?
We
Sorry.
are 5-2.
right.
Okay, sorry.
I'll
I'll
wind
go
up then
super
and go get
quickly.
Phoebe.
So we were talking about
The last C-section,
yes, the
2021.
last C-section.
Yes.
Did you decide to get a C-section because of the travel and because of the transport?
No, it was
wasn't
medical
based on that?
reasons.
Okay.
Medical reasons I had to. Once I'd had the first emergency C-section, the option was there to try for a natural birth for the second baby, and I did try for a natural birth and it didn't happen, so I was sectioned for the second birth. After that, the consultants and doctors will say to you, well, you really ought to keep going with sections because it's then too risky to attempt a natural birth for the simple fact that the womb scar could give way and split during labour. So sections 3 and 4 had to be absolutely planned.
I know that you're in a rush, so I'll just quickly ask you at the end here. What's your message to the Scottish Government or to the health board in the area? What do you think needs changed and what would you will them to do?
Well, it'd be nice if officials in the Scottish Government would come up here and do the journey for themselves, to come and see how far pregnant women and women in labour are travelling to have their babies. It'd be nice if they experienced it for themselves. And also, I'd like to point out that there are more rights for cattle in this country than there are for pregnant and labouring women. What's all that about? They need to think long and hard about the rights that women have versus the rights of animals. And I really would say at this stage it's very dangerous sending women that distance, but also in poor weather during the winter months, and isolating them from friends and family, and also expecting them to travel all the way back up the road, which is not a great road anymore for potholes, usually feeling very sore after giving birth, and in some cases having a fresh surgical incision and a newborn baby, and even needing to stop and breastfeed along the way.
I can't help but not ask this. Do you think the Scottish Government are in breach of human rights?
I do. I absolutely think they're in breach of human rights, without a doubt.
And do you think that there is a case for legal action to be taken against
Yes,
them?
I believe there's a case for legal action, absolutely.
Would you want to pursue that?
I would if I could, yes.
but it needs more support.
Yes. Yes.